New World is the biggest new AAA MMORPG to release in years. Since launch I've clocked in over 500 hours, seen every piece of content the game has to offer, and I've almost maxed every skill in the game. Additionally, I've tested New World on numerous occasions in the past, the first time being back in 2018 when it was just a generic 50 player per server survival game, completely unrecognizable from what it is today. This review will likely be more focused on the negatives and providing constructive criticism for features of the game that can be improved, as at this point we're approaching 2 months post-launch, the game's lost over 75% of its initial player base, and big changes need to be made to make New World an MMORPG that will last for years to come. If you haven't played New World but would like to get a good idea of the game from start to finish, then I have a full Journey to Max Level series on my channel that I highly recommend watching. But before we jump into it, a quick word from today's sponsor, Raycon. So New World has some of the best audio out there out of any recent MMO, and what better way to enjoy it than with Raycon's premium wireless earbuds that are known for having the highest quality to price ratio out there when it comes to similar products. They come with a variety of colours and interchangeable gel tips for your ears' comfort and support, and unlike some other brands, they don't protrude out of your ears. Raycon's new everyday earbuds offer an improved rubber oil look and feel with optimised gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, as well as 8 hours of playtime, 32 hours battery life, and the earbud holder doubles as a charging capsule with up to 4 times recharges on the go. In addition to all that, Raycons also include an inbuilt mic, so you can use them to take advantage of New World's proximity voice chat. Raycons start at half the price of other premium audio brands, and also come with a 45-day happiness guarantee. Personally, I like to use my Raycons when chilling in a coffee shop, catching up on YouTube content, and most recently whilst chilling out gathering in New World off camera. Click the link in the description below or go to buyraycon.com/TLP to get up to 20% off your Raycon purchase. First, let's start with the pros, the good things about New World. I'll be rating the game on 5 different aspects: world design, gameplay, crafting and economy, endgame, and UI/quality of life. The biggest thing I love about New World is the feeling of actually being out in the world, and whilst there are a lot of reused assets that make you feel a major deja vu playing through the game, the sense of scale and immersion when it comes to the size of your character in relation to the trees, mountains and buildings is the best I've experienced in the MMORPG genre. The view distance is extremely far, you'll see a giant mountain a whole zone away, and later learn that it's a place you can actually go explore. The gathering in New World on face value also feels like the best in the MMO genre. Every tree can be chopped, almost every boulder can be mined. The world is so densely populated with these gatherable nodes, which ties back to the feeling of immersion being out in the world. During the leveling process, the gathering makes the whole experience more enjoyable, as you'll be running from A to B and constantly end up getting distracted by mining rocks, gathering hemp and chopping trees. The gathering feels like the thing that connects you to the world. Another best in genre aspect of New World has got to be the sound design, from the cracking of trees getting cut down by other players in the distance, to the satisfying ding of your items selling on the trading post, the punchy level up sound effect, general UI interaction sounds, and the impactful hit SFX from combat. The sound team did an incredible job with this game, and once again, it all ties back into that feeling of immersion being out in the world. Graphically, New World looks absolutely stunning in places. The lighting as the sun sets, the reflections from the water, the mist rising up from the ground. This adds to the sense of immersion out in the world, and visually, it's a top 3 MMO that will be looking good for years to come. New World's combat, whilst having a lot of issues that I'll mention later, feels unique on a fundamental level. There isn't really another MMORPG that has combat that feels like this, and it's a true action combat system, not a soft lock action combat system. So for range attacks, that means you actually have to aim and hit your target the same way you would in a first-person shooter. I like that New World is a classless MMORPG. You can level up and equip every weapon in the game, and create a variety of different builds. This is something that will also improve going forward as more weapons are added, such as the Greatsword, daggers, blunderbuss, void gauntlet and so on. Massive potential for expansion here, and each edition adds content to the game via the weapon mastery grind. New World, as of making this video, is a non-pay-to-win buy-to-play MMO that, despite its issues, provides enough content to justify the box cost if you enjoy the core gameplay. New World is also a game that, whilst light on content variety, is clearly trying to provide an equal amount of content for both PvP and PvE players, which will obviously expand going forward. On the PvP side of things, you've got duels, open world PvP, territory sieges, PvP missions, and a 20 vs 20 queuable instanced battleground. On the PvE side of things, you've got corrupted portals, elite group grind zones, which are like open world dungeons, 5-player expeditions, world bosses, corrupted invasions, the main quest line, and all of the crafting / gathering content, as well as player housing. So a decent mix in my opinion. At face value, for the first few weeks of playing, the crafting system feels amazing. It's super approachable for new players, feels like a core aspect of the game, and you can also level up your character through crafting. It's not until later that the cracks in this system start to appear, which I'll talk about later, but at face value, it's good. The 5-player expeditions, New World's take on dungeons, are probably my favourite piece of multiplayer content the game currently offers. Difficulty feels reasonable, especially on your first run, visually expedition environments look pretty epic, and the bosses have a reasonable amount of mechanics. If you take the completionist mindset and play New World like RuneScape, trying to max everything, the game can feel quite enjoyable and keep you playing for a long period of time with those personal set goals. That being said, the game currently lacks completionist flex items, which I'll talk about later. Generally, the user interface for New World looks pretty clean and doesn't clutter the heck out of your screen like most Asian MMOs. That being said, it still needs work and has a lot of bugs, which I'll mention later. Next, let's talk about the cons. Some of these issues are more fundamental than others, some are just small things that wind me up. Just know that I clearly enjoy the game and want it to succeed. If not, I wouldn't have put in over 500 hours in less than 2 months. Don't be one of those absolute losers from the New World forums that get offended by any critique of the game. Don't be one of those idiots that dismiss any criticism as hate because you're level 35, play for 1 hour per day, and you're still in the honeymoon phase, so you haven't reached the point where these issues start to appear. Amazon has infinite money and resources. This game has gone through more testing than any other MMORPG in recent memory, and a lot of the game's issues are inexcusable. If you're someone that feels the need to dick suck a multi-billion-dollar company in the face of legit critique, then reevaluate your life, close the video, and fuck off. Let's begin. A lot of the towns in New World feel very copy-paste. Morningdale is basically Windswood but rotated slightly. This isn't an issue with towns from the newest zones, Reekwater and Ebonscale Reach though. There's a lack of mob variety and a lot of copy-paste assets, animations, and areas of the world that will make you feel massive deja vu. After level 30, you know where every chest will be located in any building you encounter going forward. Healing large group content feels like a mess, and you're unable to target heal people outside of your 5-player group. You cannot make groups larger than 5 players. Endgame boss farming is antisocial as it's designed that only 5 to 10 people can get loot, and loot priority is based on damage. This means as a healer it's extremely difficult to get loot as your healing contribution isn't counted, only damage. Many groups turn away healers for certain endgame content due to this system, and it feels really weird. The body blocking in New World can be infuriating at times. It takes about 3 mobs to surround you in a corner and body block you to the point of being stuck. Players can also body block you in combat, which makes melee feel less fun during large boss battles or fighting mobs in tight areas. Getting permanently staggered by low level mobs as a level 60 in full plate armor is one of the most awful feelings in the game. In New World there's no diminishing returns on getting staggered, so if you're trying to fight 4 or more mobs at once for weapon mastery farming, the combat feels utter dog shit, as you're constantly being interrupted and thrown around like a ragdoll by mobs 30 levels lower than you. It's just not fun. Some combat animations still feel very clunky with long animation locks. Some abilities can be dodge roll cancelled whilst others cannot. Everything needs to be cancelable via dodge roll for the sake of consistency. New World has the worst designed questing in any MMO in recent years. Super repetitive, there's only 3 or 4 types of quests in the game, most have long runs back and forth to the quest giver, the rewards for these quests don't feel appropriate for the amount of effort involved, and none of them give you multiple choice quest rewards, so you're likely never going to see a weapon or piece of armor upgrade from a quest. As a result of this awful leveling, everybody ignores the side quest and simply levels by purely spamming town project board quests, as it's much faster and gives you more freedom. New World has a lot of group content tied to the MSQ, and whilst this wasn't a problem during the launch of the game, it's going to be very difficult for new players to find groups for the 25, 45 and 55 dungeon, with the vast majority of the player base being 60, and each server having a small amount of players looking for this content. This could be solved in the future though by the devs creating level 60 versions of these dungeons, and scaling up the new players so they can group with 60s. New World had multiple game-breaking duplication exploits during the first month of launch, which has essentially ruined the game's economy. Yes, a lot of these bugs have been fixed now, yes, a lot of people have been banned, but it's hard to tell the true extent of the damage done here, as a lot of the duped gold was laundered through crafting, items sold to other players, and so on. Even if the game didn't have any issues with exploiting and bugs though, the New World economy is designed in a way that's turned out to be deflationary rather than inflationary, which means the prices of everything in the game in general have gone down since launch. The reasons for this are that there's more gold sinks in the game taking gold out of the economy than there are systems injecting gold into the economy. Gold sinks include town upgrades from destroyed invasion buildings, high repair costs on death, respec costs, housing taxes, money spent on consumables, and money spent on tuning orbs that are consumed when you enter a dungeon. As for gold generators, you've got a 5% chance to receive up to 10 or 15 gold from killing a mob, 100 to 150 gold per quest from mid to late game. At max level, people have likely finished with the questing though, so less gold is generated via questing as time goes on. 200 to 350 gold per game of Outpost Rush, and about 600 gold per siege and invasion. This, combined with the fact that every player has the ability to craft and gather everything, puts New World's economy in a weird situation. It's also one of the few MMOs where the higher the tier of gathering resource, the less valuable it is, as the higher the tier of refined resource, the more of the lower tier gatherables are required. If you're someone that enjoys playing the economy of an MMO, you'd likely be very frustrated with New World. You're limited to only posting 100 trading post listings at a time. This feels tedious and unfun to manage. 100 listings feels like nothing. Unlike almost every other MMO I can think of, New World doesn't have NPCs that will buy stuff from you to create a baseline price. This results in a lot of items in the game being unsellable and worthless, listed for 0.01 on the trading post. It feels shit having to drop orichalcum and platinum ore on the floor due to weight limit when these are late game gatherable resources. I think adding an NPC to buy things for a baseline price would likely help stabilize the economy with a new gold injector. There's a reason almost every MMO has NPCs like this. Storage management is also a massive unfun pain in the ass in New World, especially towards endgame. Even with tier 5 storage chests in your house, it just doesn't feel like enough. This is made worse by the deteriorating economy, making your storage overweight every few days if things don't sell, and being limited to 100 listings. To be honest, the game would probably be more fun if it just had a traditional MMO global style bank without weight restrictions. Compared to other MMORPGs, New World's server cap is actually pretty low, at a max of 2,250 players allowed online at any given time. This creates issues on low pop servers, such as struggling to find groups, difficulties gathering enough people for sieges and invasions, and low trade volume within the game's trading post. Personally, I wish New World took a similar approach to games like RuneScape and BDO to solve this technical limitation. The Black Desert Online solution would be perfect. Each server is split up with 5 to 8 channels. Each channel can support say 2,000 players, but players can switch between these channels every 15 minutes. The whole territory control aspect can still work with this system, however it essentially allows thousands more players to be able to group up, better trading post liquidity, and a more competitive PvP scene. In its current state, the 2,250 player limit per server is going to scale poorly as the map gets larger and new content is added, as even in its current state it feels like players are spread rather thinly with the limited content that's available in the game right now. The crafting system, whilst at face value is pretty good, could use some work. In terms of gold to XP ratio, it's often best to just spam craft the lowest tier recipes all the way to 200, further devaluing the value of endgame materials, putting more pressure on the lower tier resources in the game's economy. The game lacks flex rewards for maxing a skill to 200. Other than a shitty title, you get nothing. Create flex items like RuneScape's skill capes or something so people can show off maxing every skill. The fishing skill in New World currently feels out of place in the game. Out of all the gathering skills, it takes the most effort and time to level up, and it gives the least rewards. Fishing used to randomly give players gold, which resulted in a lot of low-level fishing bots. Instead of improving their bot detection system, or simply making it so you need to reach level 60 with 100 fishing to receive gold drops, the devs just removed the drop and made the skill feel like a massive waste of time that only completionists such as myself will go through. Buff fishing for high-level players, please. New World's PvP territory sieges are just straight up broken. The game engine simply cannot handle a large group of players in a single location at once. This means that to win a siege, you just stack 50 heavy armor wearers and healers standing on a capture point, lag out the server so everyone's just frozen still, and there's nothing the other side can do. The team that coordinates this strategy the best will simply win. At launch, sieges were kind of fun as players were less coordinated and more spread out, which resulted in less lag, but over time it's become worse to the point where most players are apathetic to the whole siege and territory control aspect of the game. New World's high watermark endgame drop progression system needs a lot of work. This system is designed so you slowly obtain better and better gear score drops from mobs over time through RNG. When you first sting 60, you'll be dropping gear score 500 pieces, but over time you can up that to 600 via mob grinding and chest opening. This sounds okay on paper, but my issue with this system is that you have a separate high watermark for each weapon rather than each slot. So let's say you spend 3 months grinding to full 600 gear score high watermark drops, then they release a new weapon to the game, you'll be back to dropping 500 gear score versions of this new weapon, and the grind will never end as long as new weapons are introduced to this system. This system just doesn't scale well with future content. What happens when the gear score cap is raised to 700 or 800? Will we still be grinding new weapon drops up from 500? What makes this high watermark system even worse is that it's a hidden system that's not trackable in any way via the UI. To track my watermark for each slot, I've basically had to create a notepad and update it whenever I go on a loot run. Why is there no notification or pop-up whenever you get an upgrade here? On top of all that, the way this system is progressed in practice is just looting chests in a Zerg every 24 hours. There's no skill or challenge to it whatsoever, it's a pure time gate. By the time you even reach 600 watermark dropped gear, you'd have likely maxed your crafting profession to be able to craft better gear anyway, rendering the whole frustrating system pretty much pointless. In the 500 hours I've played New World and a month into being level 60, I haven't received a single piece of dropped gear from mobs that's an upgrade over stuff I've crafted myself. And additionally, if all this wasn't bad enough, the mere existence of this system means that it's completely pointless to even step foot in an endgame dungeon until you've maxed your high watermark score from weeks of opening chests. Dungeon keys are expensive and take time to craft. Why would people waste those keys shortly after hitting 60 when they'll get dogshit, low gear score loot purely because they haven't gone through the open world time gate? Awful system that's been responsible for thousands of people quitting the game upon hitting level 60. The way decoration score for player housing is calculated is some of the stupidest shit I've ever seen in an MMO. Basically, the amount of points your house rating has is only partially to do with decoration, but mostly to do with how much crafting or territory standing you've gained in that town for the week. This means the top rated houses displayed to the public could have 10 pieces of basic furniture in it compared to something that's fully decked out in high-end furniture and have a higher rating. Mind-boggling stupidity by the dev that thought this was a clever idea. Mob AI in New World is very easily manipulated, to the point where almost every open world elite 5-player grind spot can have a single solo player run through them daily and ninja loot every chest by simply climbing out of the reach of the mob, letting it reset and quickly looting the chest before the mob becomes re-aggroable. I don't know how they can fix this other than designing elite grind spots with no climbable areas, or only allowing chests to be lootable for a certain period of time after a boss has been killed first. New World is a game that's designed for you to have a set of gear for basically every activity in the game. Each crafting skill has its own gear set: chef's clothes, armor smith's, woodcutting clothes, fisher's clothes, harvesting, and so on. On top of this, New World is also designed so it's easy to respec and use different weapons and builds with various attributes. With this in mind, you'd expect the devs to have made some kind of easy system where you can save and bundle gear sets together so you can swap between them easily. No, this isn't the case. Now I'm at Endgame with a metric fuckton of different gear in my bank and inventory, and I need to be careful to not accidentally salvage some of it whilst sorting through my bags after chest runs. If I mine ore, I need to look through my inventory for my mining luck set, then click on each individual piece, mine the ore, then put my combat set back on. It's a massive pain in the ass, a problem that you'll only start to encounter at Endgame. The New World auction house needs more filtering options. It's weird that you can sort through over 100 different perks, but you can't make a search based on attributes such as pure strength, pure int, a mix of focus con, and so on. Currently, the game has a costume transmog system for cash shop cosmetics, however it doesn't let you collect the appearance of actual dropped or crafted gear in the game. This is clearly by design to drive more cash shop costume sales, however it makes the game worse than it could be otherwise. Imagine having cool looking craftable legendary armor that has bad stats but just looks cool for transmog. They're really missing out on a huge piece of potential completionist collection content here. I'd love to see Asmongold stream some New World transmog competitions, but it doesn't seem like that will be possible in this game. It's annoying that some UI elements you can open whilst running, such as the map, whilst others, such as the inventory, you cannot. As inventory management is a big part of this game, it'd be nice to do this whilst travelling throughout the world. Overall, New World is an MMORPG with a lot of potential that I don't think will be truly realised for at least another year to come. Some of the positive aspects of this game are best in genre, such as the feeling of being out in the world, the gathering, the visuals and sound effects, whilst other aspects of the game are so poorly thought out that you're left scratching your head, such as the economy being completely fucked, the quest design, the disastrous launch with multiple dupe bugs, and the high watermark system. I've said on many occasions before launch that my expectations for New World is that it's this generation's Elder Scrolls Online, a game that'll be mocked for being a complete mess at launch, but eventually redeem itself over the years, and so far I'm kinda right with that theory. Despite new bugs still being found every week, as of making this video I am noticing the game slowly address some of its issues, and the devs are a lot faster at responding with better communication now than at launch. Compared to every other release from Amazon Game Studios, New World has been their biggest success so far, and the reason for the negativity and player drop-off is mostly down to incompetence on their end. New World really needed another year of development. It feels like an early access game, but even still, I think most people will get their money's worth from playing it in its current state. Would I recommend New World? I'd recommend it to people who are able to play MMOs in a way where they set their own goals and ignore all the noise that is MMO endgame drama, and chasing the goal of being top 0.01% geared. It seems like the more seriously you take this game, the less you enjoy it, and this is something that I've felt personally since hitting endgame. The most fun I had with New World was during the early leveling, exploring the world for the first time, dipping my toes into the crafting and finding new gatherables. The game feels amazing until around level 20 or 30. At this point, a lot of players hit a wall and either quit the game or take a step back and level via town projects. I wouldn't recommend New World to fans of traditional theme park MMOs like WoW or Final Fantasy XIV, as you're not going to get the same story focus, there's no ultra late game difficult PvE content, and most of the enjoyment comes from setting your own goals rather than having the game tell you what to do. If you're a fan of RuneScape, Albion Online or Black Desert Online, there's a good chance that you'll enjoy New World to some extent. But that's it for my New World review. I do plan on continuing to cover this game going forward with new content updates, and if you haven't done so already, check out my full New World Journey to Max Level series, which is currently finished and contains hundreds of hours of progress condensed down into 6 videos. Shout out to Raycon for sponsoring this video, links to them in the description below and social media on screen. Thanks for watching, I hope you all had a successful day, and I'll see you again in the next one.